Are you looking for the perfect RV and want to avoid costly mistakes? In this episode, I'll break down what to look for when buying an RV and how to spot potential issues before you make a big investment. Plus, we'll share an RV pro tip that can save you from future headaches. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Restless Nomads, the ultimate RV show for modern-day rubber tramps and weekend warriors alike. Whether you're chasing sunsets full-time, savoring seasonal escapes, or just hitting the road for a quick weekend getaway, this is your go-to show for tips, tricks, and tales from the road. Join us as we dive into everything RV, choosing the right rig, surviving life on wheels, and navigating the highs and lows of life on the move. From towables to motorhomes, budget hacks to campsite secrets, we've got you covered. So buckle up, nomads, and let's hit the road to adventure, 1 mile at a time. Welcome back to the Restless Nomads. Mike Wood here with you. We're talking everything RVs. Check out our travel vlog at therestlessnomads.com. In RVing news, it's kind of pertinent to what we're talking about today. 2025 Keystone Cougars have finally abandoned the dreaded Accu-Slide in favor of the Accu-Slide system. The notorious Accu-Slide has damaged countless RVs, totaled many of them, and caused insurance companies to have to pay out on them. So, let's dive right into this. Essential RV shopping tips. Now, when you go to the lot, the first thing that you're going to look at probably is the exterior appearance of the RV, and you're also going to walk inside and get the oohs and ahs from the floor plan and all the pretty paint they put on stuff. But I'm telling you that you need to be looking a little deeper than that, and you need to have some knowledge, because RVs in general are not built well. That's just the nature of the beast. So many manufacturers, especially on the base model stuff like Heartland and Dutchman and Keystone and even the old Fleetwood, all of those, even Winnebago, have problems with their manufacturing. Grand Design, Airstream, Alliance, those are the higher end stuff, but they will still have problems that you need to be aware of. So the first thing I want you to do when you approach an RV on the lot and the salesman is going to kind of try to distract you in this process, you just have to kind of ignore him and focus on what you're there to do. On travel trailers, check the manufacturer's sticker, and that's usually located on the driver's side front exterior. So in the very front on the driver's side. Motorhomes, it's often found inside a cabinet, typically on the back side of a cabinet, somewhere in the kitchen, somewhere prominent on the back side of a cabinet, usually in the kitchen. Now the sticker provides some critical information for you. It's going to tell you what year it was manufactured. So many times they're going to claim it's a 2025 when it was manufactured in November of 2024, just like cars. It's going to give you the model number, which can be useful for your research. I would take a picture of this label, and that way you can look things up when you go home. I wouldn't buy it right there, sight unseen, or not sight unseen, but on the spot, unless you know exactly what you're looking at and you have some experience with this. You also want to take note of the dry weight and the gross vehicle weight rating. The difference between these two numbers are going to give you your payload capacity, or cargo carrying capacity, as it's sometimes referred to. It'll tell you your tire sizes and also your recommended pressures as well, which is going to come in handy if you do end up buying it. Pay close attention to the fine print regarding payload capacity, because it's going to specify whether it means propane tanks full, empty water tanks, or full freshwater tank, empty, other empty tanks, or all other tanks empty, rather. So you want to be kind of aware. Water weighs a lot, and most of the time they give you this dry weight, as it's known, or unloaded vehicle weight, in numbers without anything on board. So that means no clothes, no fun stuff in the RV. no water in the tanks, nothing like that. So if you have a small payload capacity, the difference between the GVWR, gross vehicle weight rating, and the dry weight, if that number is small, you're going to diminish how much you can take with you very quickly if you roll around with a tank full of water. I mean, significantly. So if you've got a payload carrying capacity of, let's say, 1,000 pounds, and then you put 492 pounds of water in it, then you can only carry 608 pounds worth of stuff. Now, that seems like a lot, but if you were to weigh everything that you're planning on putting in that RV, and I mean everything, dishes, clothing, all the fun stuff, it likely is going to exceed 600 pounds. And that can become a problem. Now, this payload carrying capacity can also give you some insight on the quality of the frame that they built this thing on. Most frames are Lippert frames. They're all pretty standard these days. But be wary of really low numbers, because that may mean that they put this big honking body of an RV that weighs too much on this itty-bitty Lippert frame. I.e., the Airstream Bambi has a cargo carrying capacity of about 246 pounds. Not much. So they have maxed that little frame out for what they put on that frame. Not to say that it's a bad frame, it's just way, way loaded down. So be leery of that. If you see large payload numbers, large cargo carrying capacity numbers, they've given you plenty of wiggle room, and the body of that RV doesn't weigh too much for that frame. Now, while we're talking about frames, let's talk about outriggers. And those are those L-shaped metal pieces. They look like a triangle, and they're welded between the frame of the trailer and the floor of the RV, or the frame of the chassis for a motorhome and the floor of that motorhome. And you can, they go all the way around. So you can look, especially on the sides, you'll see these outriggers, and they are triangular shaped metal pieces that are welded in place, meant to give the floor and the walls some support. Now, when you're looking at these outriggers, you want to see Z-shaped outriggers. Now, this is like the premium. If you see Z-shaped outriggers, then that is really, really good. Not all of them that aren't Z-shaped are terrible. Some of the just straight triangular outriggers are okay too. If you see a little square metal piece that looks like a spacer, you want to run away from that. Small hollow metal squares that are put in between the outrigger and the floor of the trailer, those will eventually roll and can fail. Not saying it happens 100% of the time, but it is a risk. Those spacers are kind of a poor craftsmanship item. Now, when you're down there looking at the outriggers, make sure that you're looking under heavy slide outs especially. You want to look at all of them just to make sure that there's no twisting or buckling or anything like that. But the most susceptible place for this is going to be under heavy slide outs particularly. So slide outs with refrigerators and ovens and things like that in them. Or if you're buying a used RV and you have a slide out with a dinette or a couch in it, if there was a teenager that was jumping up and down on that couch or on that dinette, he could have damaged that outrigger. And when the outrigger buckles or twists, that means the entire structure of the RV is going to be compromised. Next, we'll dig into slide-out systems. Now, the top choice for slide-out systems in terms of reliability is the through-frame electrically actuated slide system. And you can tell this, there's no rails or anything like that on the side of the slide-out. If you look underneath, there will be two bars, one square and the other one is circular, and usually there's this gold circular piece on one of those bars, and you'll see wiring going to it. And if you look closely, you can see the gear mechanisms and the teeth that actuate this slide out. This is the most reliable kind of slide out that you can get. Hydraulically actuated through frame slides are the second most reliable, and those are good. The only thing with that, they're similar to the electrically actuated slide system as far as you won't have issues with them jamming up as much with some of the other systems. But if you do lose, the only disadvantage to that is if you lose hydraulic pressure or you have hydraulic fluid leaking, it can damage some things, especially if that's installed on the upper end near the roof. That hydraulic fluid will drip onto the roof, causing damage, and then eventually a damaged roof is going to cause water leaks. If the hydraulic assembly is located below the slide, that's better, and you should be in pretty good shape, except for if you develop a hydraulic leak. Then what you'll notice is that your slide will not want to retract fully, and it may even creep out as you're going down the road. But still a fairly reliable system. The third system, which doesn't really have any problems and is a little more rare, is the slim rail slide mechanism. Those are pretty good, and those are just one or two little slim rails on the side of your slide outs, and those have had a pretty good track record. High maintenance slide systems. Anything with cables is going to require periodic tightening. Now, there are two types of cable slide systems. One is called the BAL Accu-Slide, and it is mounted with corner brackets on the walls on the inside, and that can cause major problems. That's what Keystone Cougar has gone away from this year in the 2025 production year. They have moved away from the BAL Accu-Slide, probably because they ran out of them. They quit making them because they were damaging so many RVs to the point of a total loss. So if you see cables, you might want to just ignore that RV altogether. If you see cables and you really like the RV, then you need to check to see whether or not that RV is equipped with an Accu-Slide system. If it is, don't even bother. If it's equipped with an Accu-Exact slide system, which is a cable system, but it is basically the Accu-Slide with those problems fixed and decently reliable enough, although you will still need to put tension on those pulleys every once in a while. You're going to have to maintenance that and retension it, and you have the risk of cables failing over time. But the Exact slide, Accu-Exact, way better than the BAL Accu-Slide. Avoid Accu-Slide if at all possible. The BAL Accu-Slide usually will have a sticker on the slide inside. You'll notice the corner mounting brackets that the pulleys are mounted to on the inside, either on the top corners or on the bottom corners, and they're mounted directly to the wall. And there's a lot of pressure that gets put on that point, which in turn can damage the RV by ripping the wall out, essentially. Exact slides you can identify if you look at the slide mechanism on the outside. Usually it has a blue and white sticker, and that will tell you, it'll actually say Accu-Exact slide on it. So that'll tell you that you're in good shape there. Now, another major problem with RV manufacturers and their lazy, lackadaisical craftsmanship is that many of them are plumbing these RVs with both PEX and Flex. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, and that's pretty typical. But what the problem is when you join Flex to PEX plumbing improperly. So a lot of manufacturers have been putting pinch clamps on Flex line on a PEX connector, and that is that the PEX connector is slightly less in circumference than is designed for the flex line. And so what happens over time is that flex line begins to stretch a little bit, and it inevitably will leak. This may or may not be a deal breaker for you when you, and you can Google this. Also, check out RV Rigger on YouTube. This is a guy that has taught me a lot. He's got the Undercover RV Shopper course, and he has reviews on all these RVs, and he talks about all these issues. But this may or may not be a deal breaker. You know, if you look under the sink and you see a flex line connected to a PEX connector with a pinch clamp, okay. But if you can get eyes on the water heater, that's the most common point of failure, and also the water pump. And generally those things, the water heater and water pump, are going to be harder to access the back of the water heater to replumb that. Now, if you're not handy or you don't know what you're doing and you're looking at RVs for the first time and you see this, just avoid the thing altogether. It's not even worth your trouble. Move on to the next one that might have decent plumbing. But it's really important to check it, because those will inevitably fail, and that's going to cause water to squirt all over your RV. RVs hate water. They're full of MDF and particle board, and that will swell and it will just ruin your RV. So, places to check for this flex line connected to PEX connectors by use of pinch clamp. If you ever see a pinch clamp on a flex tube, you know it's wrong. Under the kitchen and bathroom sinks, behind the toilet, and near the water heater and the water pump. And depending on how accessible those things are and how good you are at replacing plumbing fittings, should be a determining factor on whether you think it's worth buying the RV. But just know, if you buy one like that, you should, to prevent damage, take it straight home and replace the plumbing in it, which you shouldn't have to do on a new RV, right? All right, we're going to go to a break, and we'll come back with more of these things, more tips for you brand new RV shoppers and seasoned RV shoppers alike. Want to get your business noticed? Sponsor a show on KKFO Gold Country Radio on 103.3 FM and create awareness through on-air announcements, our online stream at goldcountryradio.org, and our podcasts that live on forever. Your message reaches a broad local audience while also targeting listeners who choose to tune in to the shows they love. Plus, we promote your sponsorship across our website and social media. For more information, email goldcountryradio@gmail.com. Call 541-238-6989 or visit goldcountryradio.org. Gold Country Radio, your message heard locally and beyond. If you like the Restless Nomads Radio Show and other community shows, check out goldcountryradio.org. We have a featured show section on there, and you can click on that and listen to the latest episode as well as all the previous episodes to get caught up on your favorite community shows. We've got all kinds of topics that are really, really interesting. RV Pro Tip of the Week: to conserve LP gas and electricity in your RV, only turn your water heater on about 30 minutes before you need hot water. Whether it's for a shower, washing dishes, or any other issue, once the water reaches that temperature, cut that water heater off. Now, this is especially important for the tank type water heaters that use electric and propane. There's no reason for you to constantly be heating that water up and burning through that propane or using that electricity. If you're at an RV park and you're plugged into shore power and not paying for electricity, then heck, why not? Leave the electricity on for the water heater. But if you leave the propane on, the same with your on-demand water heater, it's probably just a good idea to shut the propane off of that to conserve on your propane usage. If you leave the propane on your water heater all the time, you'll find yourself with empty LP tanks sooner than later. Okay, let's get into some things to look for when shopping for RVs. Let's talk a little bit about warranties. Now, extended warranties, I don't know. Some people love them, some people hate them. There's mixed reviews on it. Some people claim that they've saved them a bunch of money. Some people say that they aren't worth the trouble because the warranty company is going to fight you tooth and nail not to have to pay out, which I tend to lean towards that. For one thing, they generally have a list of exclusions and requirements. So I've seen a lot of extended warranties where it states that you have to take the RV in to have it resealed every 6 months. Now you have to pay the shop to reseal it in order to gain a receipt to stay within compliance of your warranty. The shop is going to charge you an arm and a leg for labor to reseal that RV, and if you don't pay it, then your warranty becomes void. So that's something to think about. If you are a DIYer and you're going to do a lot of this yourself, you'll probably fall out of compliance just by nature of you doing this stuff by yourself. Or if you're neglectful, you'll fall out of compliance with the warranty too, and then you paid all that money for absolutely nothing. Extended warranties generally cover appliances 5 to 6 years. You usually have manufacturer warranties for 1 to 2 years on those appliances and also on the frame of the RV. And oftentimes the roof will come with a warranty. Not that that means much, but that's in the marketing. 25-year roof warranty, you know. Of course, they're always going to find some reason. They're talking about manufacturer defects, like if you have a bubble on the roof and the roof flies off as you're going down the road, which can happen. But if, you know, a branch falls on it and scrapes the EPDM or something like that, and then water gets in there, they're not going to replace your roof for you. Don't be misled. So always read the fine print on these warranties if you're even considering it. And also be aware that when you take your RV to the shop is going to have to reach out to the warranty company to plead the case, try to get the work approved, and then also they have to get every single part involved approved by the warranty company. And then they likely will have to order the parts, and then you will have to wait your turn in line when it comes to servicing. So it is not uncommon for people to have their RVs in the shop for 9 months at a time getting warranty work done, especially because they know they've got it in the bank. It's not like they're working for new cash. It's old money, right? You already paid for it. The warranty company is going to pay them, but they're not going to pay them nearly how much you're going to pay them, just like insurance. Health insurance doesn't pay doctors nearly as much as the out-of-pocket cost, right? So the shops are not as motivated. Oftentimes, they'll just straight out turn down warranty work. Many times, you have to take it back to the original dealer in order to get the warranty work done. Well, what if you are on a 6-month road trip and something happens in Maine and your RV dealer is in Bend, Oregon? That's going to be an issue. And there are exclusionary policies, exclusions in the warranties usually that state if you continue to use it, the RV, the whole RV, after something has gone wrong, your warranty is void. So in my opinion, if I were you, I would just get really good at DIY repairs and fix things on your own. Fixing things by yourself can not only save you a bunch of time and a bunch of money, and if you get in over your head, you can call a mobile RV tech or take your RV to a shop and pay cash. They'll be much more motivated to get the job done and get you out of there, parting you with your cash, because cash is king, right? Now, not to say that there's very little on an RV that cannot be easily fixed, really. Big frame issues, slide out having to come out, that kind of thing, things that require special equipment, those things you might be in a little bit over your head. But most of the things that arise in an RV, you can do on your own. I've used YouTube as my education source pretty much my sole education source. There are so many resources on YouTube that you can watch and learn how to do things on your RV. And you can even diagnose your problems with YouTube. So that's how I've done it. I've personally repaired electrical and plumbing issues sitting right in a campground. I avoid that long wait for the warranty work, and it makes me feel a little more independent. I like the fact that once I fix something, I have learned that system. I know it in and out, and if any other problem arises in the future, I'll be able to fix it right there on site. It's not exactly what I want to be doing when I take the trailer to the lake and we're supposed to spend a fun-filled weekend, and then I've got a leak or I've got an electrical problem. Not particularly what I want to do, but it sure beats taking the RV back to the shop and leaving it there for 3 months and having to go home and cancel the trip. So just think about that. Carry a basic toolkit with you and familiarize yourself with your RV systems. That's critical. You never want to go RVing or boating, for that matter, without a toolkit on board. And you will use those tools, because let me tell you, if you're buying your first trailer or your first motorhome and you think that everything is just going to work flawlessly all the time, you're in for a rude awakening. These things are like a hurricane and an earthquake hit a house at the same time, and a poorly built house at that. Going down the interstate at 70 miles an hour, things are going to break. Things are going to get loose. Things are going to fall out. Things are going to break inevitably. It's going to happen. So be prepared for that and learn how to fix this stuff. A lot of it is minor cosmetic stuff, right? But you need to be able to know how to fix it. And then when you start determining the most common points of failure, like fuses, it's a good idea to carry some fuses with you. A lot of people find out what kind of water pump they need, and they just put that somewhere in the RV too, because that is going to fail eventually. You're going to have to buy one. Might as well have the spare on hand for when it happens, and you can change it out. No big deal. So get handy and save yourself a bunch of headache, a bunch of time, and a bunch of money. Let me just give you, we've been looking at trailers recently, and let me just tell you, they're pitching us the extended warranties, and they're also telling us the labor costs and so forth. So I'm not going to name the business, but recently I went and looked at a travel trailer, and they told me that they could fill my propane tanks up for $37. And I said, well, that's pretty much the going rate. Sure, let's do it. And they said, okay, well, there's a $60 labor charge for that. To fill a propane tank takes about 5 minutes max, and they wanted to charge $60 for it. They also, I was interested in some 6-volt batteries to put on the travel trailer, which are easier to install than 12-volt batteries, by the way. The batteries were going to be, I think, $400-something, and they wanted to charge me $350 labor to install the batteries, a job that I could do in literally 2 minutes. So be cognizant of that. The RV industry is going to take advantage of your ignorance. They try to make everything so complicated, or seem so complicated, when it really isn't. So just YouTube the heck out of this stuff and get good at it. You can even replace the air conditioning on the roof with minimal experience. When buying a used RV, take a close look at the plumbing, the joints, especially like we talked about, the flex and pecs. If there's a leak and it was never addressed, even a small leak, over time that can really wreak havoc on the RV. Used RVs harder to finance, just so you know, because they lose value so quickly. The minute you drive it off the lot, it just drops in value more than cars even. So be aware of that, and really check your sealant and your caulking jobs on these used RVs, because if at some point in its lifetime it had a crack in the caulking and water got in there, then it's going to cause a significant amount of damage. Other than that, you really go through the same process with a used RV as far as checking all the appliances, making sure everything works. And a lot of times, used RVs, you can get them for a bargain. I'm not saying used RVs are bad. They're actually kind of good in a way because you can get them at a much lower price point after the depreciation has hit, and they have already been what I call shaken out. So when you buy a new RV straight from the manufacturer, there's about a year period or so that every time you take it out, you're going to find nitnoid things that are wrong with it, and you'll have to fix them because everything is just getting shaken out. Used RVs, a lot of the time, that period has passed, and the former owner has already corrected those little nitnoid problems for you. So there are some advantages to that. Just know that if you want to finance it, it's much more difficult to finance a used RV than it is a new RV because of that loan to value that the bank is looking at. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Restless Nomads RV Show. I hope you enjoyed today's deep dive into RV shopping tips. Visit therestlessnomads.com for more guides and helpful resources. Be sure to check out RV Rigger on YouTube. I'm plugging him. He has not paid me. I use him as a customer. I watch his YouTube videos, and it's incredible. You can check him out on the web at undercoverrvshopper.com for even more detailed reviews and inspection tips. Until next time, safe travels and happy camping.